Welcome. It is the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School Board meeting. Today is Monday, the 25th of August. It is the beginning of the school year for the 25-26 school year, and this is our first meeting for the year. I'm going to take us through the agenda. We can see if we have any modifications to it and get started. And Kat will do a roll call for us in a minute. So we'll start with community comments. We will have an overview and a discussion, if we so choose, on the superintendent transition plan. We have a warning of a new policy, the behavior threat teams policy. We do a legislative update, if you so choose, on Act 73 and 72, which are two big bills that impact schools this year. An update from the superintendent, approving our last two meeting minutes. Quick update on the VSBA regional meeting and conference, and then if there's any other business. Any changes, modifications, updates to the agenda? Okay, Pat, would you take us through a roll call, please?
Yes, sure. Hi, everybody. Tara Arneson.
Present.
Kevin Campbell.
Here.
Heather Chadwick.
Here.
Allison Conant.
Here.
Gail Conley.
Gail has resigned from the board, and we can probably talk about that. That would be a good thing.
All right, thank you. Stephen Diglio.
Here.
Edie Graining.
I am here.
James Franzen.
Here.
Susan Lillich.
Here.
Sandra Limoges.
Here.
Kyle Magida.
Here.
Ethan Maurer.
Here.
Stuart Morageau. Not yet. Katie Nelson.
Here.
And Lisa Pollock. Student rep is Eli Wimet.
Here.
Thanks, Eli. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to apologize to anyone who sent me an email or a note today about their attendance. I got back at 6:12 and made it here for our meeting at 6:30, and I'm very proud of myself. So, is it okay with folks if we do a quick board update at the beginning of the meeting instead of saving it for other business, now that I just said we have a change in board? Sure. Okay. And also, maybe we should welcome John to the board and do all that. So John's first meeting, welcome to Superintendent.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I think we've done a lot of tell us about yourself stuff, so we'll let you do that in community groups around, and you can talk about that as your superintendent transition plan. A couple of weeks ago, Gail reached out and said that he's been thinking about it for a while, and he's decided to resign from his position before his term is up. We have had part of the reason that he has decided that it was a good time to do it now is that we've had some interest from folks in Huntington who are interested in stepping up, who have really invested interest in the community and want to be a big part of it, and Gail felt comfortable with that. So Ethan is taking the lead on talking to folks, working with Katie to help fill the position. And just so everybody knows, the way it works is that the board finds someone to fill the rest of the year. So it's not the rest of the term, but it's until March. And then in March, that person can run, and anyone else can run for the seat. You have a couple of people who are interested right now?
Yes, we have two folks that we're going to chat with. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I think Dr. Conley's term is 2027, so they would run in March for the 1 year piece.
Correct.
And then, we obviously don't know what the landscape looks like moving forward, but that would be the case. So they would fill just till March, decide if they were going to run again, they would do 1 more year, and then they would have to decide if they were going to run again.
Correct, yep. And then we also we find someone, we let the town select board know and they say great generally. So,
And the people that have reached out are excellent. And so, wherever that lands, it would be great.
great, and you posted, and for just so everyone knows, you posted, you've made this very public. You say, like, anybody interested, please come talk to us. We'd really like to find people who want to do this at the time. So, great, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for letting us pop that in. Community comments. So community comments will be limited to no more than 5 minutes per person. The board requests that participants clearly state their name, place of residence, and topic of comment. The school board will take no action on items raised during community comments, and dialogue exchanges will be for clarification. So anyone here who has community comments for us? I don't see anyone in the room. Anyone who is hanging with us remotely? Okay. All right, we're happy to hear from you. If something comes up in between meetings, you can always send us an email, and we are happy to figure out how to support your concerns. John, I'm going to turn it over to you on the superintendent transition plan.
Yes, hi. Thanks, Edie, and I would just also thank Mike for hosting us so close to the start of the school year. This is a busy time for school principals. He's hosting us in here just to make sure we have all our needs met. So thank you, Mike.
Glad you're here.
The transition plan was written last spring. It's been shared pretty frequently and publicly, but I don't want to assume that everyone has had a lot of time to engage with it or read it, or that people don't have questions about it that they might want to explore, since it isn't something that I've explored with this body in a formal fashion. It's pretty simple in terms of its focus and the way that the time is chunked out in it. It really focuses on connection and building trust through engagement, making sure that not just me, but in a way that responds to the community, that we identify and share both our strengths and our needs as a district, and that we begin that process of plotting a path forward with the ends at the center of that work. And so I'm happy to answer questions about it or go through any pieces of it in detail, or even just to talk about how we might know we're successful, which is the official prompt on the agenda for us as a group at the end of the year. That would be a useful conversation for me in terms of planning my work. So I'm happy to take direction from the board or steer us into that conversation about success measures, or how we might know we're successful at the end.
I like the idea of success.
I'd like to hear what you've learned so far.
Well, I'm in that dangerous period where I'm learning a lot, but still don't know what I don't know. That's a phrase that I've been using over and over, and I have not been able to engage deeply with our most important constituents, which are our students, who have mostly not been on our campuses. I can tell you, in terms of what I have learned, that we've done a lot of work around budget, facilities, and the human resources side of our operations, and we're in really good shape in all of those areas. I have done a lot of work this summer with some of the programs that utilize our buildings over the summer and some of the summer programming that we have, and have been really impressed with the way that kids are engaged when they and their families choose to sign up for these programs. So those are all real strong starting points. I'll also just say that I've been very impressed with the leadership team and the way that they have spent time this summer preparing, not just for this school year, but for this transition and moving forward. So I think we're in good shape. That's a quick off the cuff response.
Are you just going to wander the hallways when the students are back and kind of be like, hey, that's your day?
So we do
Without
have,
a badge?
what's that?
Without a badge.
No, I'm a stickler for making sure I have my badge. But I do plan on being in the buildings, and have worked out a schedule with the principals, not just for meeting with them, but to be in the building relatively predictably. But I also have talked at great length with everyone in the district when I can. I like to eat lunch with the kids and spend time after school with the kids, but kind of any free time I have in my schedule, I try to fill in by spending it in the school. That said, there'll be a lot of formal opportunities being advertised soon, not just for students, but also for community members and staff to have some more formal engagement with me and some focus groups or listening sessions so that we can engage in small groups. I will say a lot of staff and community members have taken me up on the invitation this summer to connect one-to-one, and so I've had a lot of really valuable one-to-one conversations, including actually with many of you.
Have you picked out some good books to read to preschoolers?
That was a question in convocation, yes.
He does have a fun. Yeah.
I do, so I'm ready.
Do you want to talk about any of the community meetings that you have already had or have coming up, or are there any on the schedule?
So we do have a rough schedule that has not been published yet, so we're really waiting. So as we get into school and school opens, those last final things that schools are scheduling for the fall will end up on the calendar, and then once we have that information, we'll make our last tweaks and publish that. I have been in contact not just with the principals and people in school about these sessions, but also with some community members who might be able to help hosting those, or some of our local businesses that would be willing to host, so that we can kind of get out into the community as we do this.
Any surprises? Any surprises or any changes to the plan, given things you found out, or just changes you plan to make?
Well, and so in full disclosure, the community engagement piece is maybe 2 or 3 weeks behind where I had hoped to be schedule-wise, but I'm confident we can make it up. Part of that is just maybe my over-optimism when I wrote the plan, knowing full well that sometimes school schedules don't finalize before the kids get back. And the other part, I'll talk more about in my superintendent update, is just related to that budget update I shared with the community. I wasn't planning on having to pause on other work to do some intensive budget work right away. But pretty minimal surprises, which is a nice thing.
Other questions, comments? Kevin?
Are you helping out with any of the other districts who are challenged with things and collaborating with other superintendents?
I have been, I've been collaborating with my colleagues. I don't want to go as far as to say offering official assistance. So both through the VSA and the Champlain Valley Superintendents Group, we've been meeting and talking about these issues that we've all gone through this summer, sharing resources and bouncing ideas off each other, meeting up for coffee to talk through things, that type of work. And I've both benefited from that and hopefully provided some benefit for my colleagues as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's an important part of the transition plan, to maintain those relationships.
Absolutely. So I am curious when we think about at the end of the year, looking back, knowing that the focus is on engagement, identifying and communicating strengths and weaknesses, and kind of plotting that path forward. What are some things that would really communicate success to you all as board members?
Seeing more district alignment. I mean, when kids come out of whatever school they're coming out of into the next one, that they all have the same level of understanding. Not one has more, one has less. They're all on the same base.
Within whatever that range is.
Yeah, wherever, I just want them all the same, whatever it is, because the state's very vague, whatever it is, let them be all the same. So we don't have kids that are bored in the next level when they come together while they're waiting on the kids that are behind to catch up.
So you're actually talking about two things, if I can confirm my understanding. One is that they are actually in relatively same places, but two, that we can have the data to actually have that conversation and say that they are.
You are, that's correct.
I would think that the first year of the leadership transition, it's like, make sure the wheels don't come off, build relationships. Don't get too far over your skis, just keep things productive and positive and build for the future. That's my feeling about big transitions like this.
I was going with the fact that people in our district know that we have a new superintendent. That was successful. I think that, people don't know, like, district leadership, who is, the principal of the school, but other than that, so I think that would be a huge win.
I'd like to, when you do report out, John, at the end of this year, I would find it helpful to hear like the numbers of community members that you actually engaged with and students, if you do anything formally, just to get a sense of the breadth of your contact and information that you're gathering. That would be helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
In that same vein, I think it would be a telling number, maybe our numbers of attendance for the school board meetings increase. People feel like they want to get out, they want to hear more of what may be unfolding over the year. That could be, a marker of, it would be a nice goal, I think, to see more people here.
I think that's a scary goal, because people come out when they're not happy.
Well, I would love
So,
for it to not be.
I don't want people to not be happy, and that's why. Just.
Historically,
Historically.
Well, it will be telling either way.
Historically, my heart was
Right?
racing.
Be telling either way.
Yes.
I think it will also be really interesting sitting on the community engagement committee. If you find amazing ways, like if you're really successful engaging the community in particular ways, that'll be really helpful for us because that's an ongoing challenge of really wanting to engage the community, and as Edie said, hoping that people, maybe become more interested in what's going on in these schools and you as a leader.
And this is part of the first two sections of what your plan is, but coming at things with fresh eyes and not necessarily seeing things that we or the leadership has missed because it's just the way it's been done, or those things that we've taken for granted that are good, or things taken for granted that need to be changed.
Other thoughts on what success looks like? Anything else? Steve and Stu, don't hesitate to just, if you put your hand up, I think you'll ding at me, so. But I'm having my back to you most of the time, so don't hesitate to get my attention. All right.
This was super helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Don't go anywhere, you're next. Next agenda item is the behavior threat teams policy warning. Talk us through the why and the what.
Yeah, so this is a relatively easy one because this is a new requirement for school districts to have. The timeline to turn this around is actually very quick, and the language that you see in the draft policy before you is actually the language from the model policy with some minor adjustments for us. So there's not a lot in here that we actually have all that much discretion in. But I will say we have had a team working really hard at this, and actually we're very fortunate that our existing practices are not too far off of the change called for with this. So the potential for disruption is relatively minimal. And the way that we structure student support services as a district actually supports our ability to do this and to pool resources across schools, which is a wonderful thing about our district, the efficiency that we get from doing that.
Can you just remind me, and I probably should know this, was it a law change or was it a rule change?
This is a rule change. And I believe that it is also part of the new district qualities, or EQS, DQS that we're working process that we're working through right now.
Thank you. So, go ahead.
It's like number 4, the provide for development of law enforcement outside of the inclusion of school or district resource officer. What is that look like? What does that mean? Like, I know we've had that conversation about school resource officers before, but is it just a matter of relationship with the local law enforcement? And it's different, right? Because Richmond has a police presence. Huntington relies on the state.
So this is really just the direction of the state directing you all to direct us as a district to develop a procedure that when we need law enforcement assistance, that we're not coming at it from scratch, that we have procedures within our buildings across the district, and that we, to the extent possible, have developed relationships with the service providers that we would call in those instances.
So is that something that you're going to develop and then sort of run through us? Is that how that would play out, or is it something that we're going to do now?
No, it's we are saying to the administration, make sure this happens.
Make it happen.
Yep.
And will that come back as like, will we see that? No, that's below, in the weeds process. No, what is it?
It's not that it's a secret, it's just not that it's board work,
Right.
right? So, yeah, this is, like, anybody can have a conversation and say, what is that procedure, and how does that work, and who has built these relationships, and who are they with, and how does that, like, that's fine, but the board doesn't need to get into that. The board just needs to know that that is happening, or has happened.
And then as a monitoring piece, where did that fall into the monitoring? Like we have had really conversations with Vermont State Police, other local law enforcement, or is it just something that we're just going to leave there and assume that it's taken care of?
In my brain, it makes sense that as part of the keeping students safe policy, which I'm not going to remember the number of, but that those relationships would be shown as evidence of, right? That we have this threat and we have set up these relationships, and every school knows, who to call and and regularly meets with or invites in so that they know the building layout and, whatever it is, So, but I don't write the report on that, so it's my feedback.
Okay, I just need a little clarification real quick. So say Underhill says, I want a resource officer, and Jericho says, I don't want a resource officer, we just want them to come in periodically. Underhill decided, this is just hypothetical, Underhill just decided that they wanted a resource officer on campus every day. And so that would just come out of their school budget, right? Is that in my understanding, if that would be what they wanted, how that would get paid? Or was that going to come out of another thing?
So that's not this at all, because this is not outside of the inclusion of having a school district resource officer that you have relationships with.
Gotcha,
So that is not this.
Okay,
That's a different conversation
gotcha,
that we can have a different day,
gotcha.
like budgets coming up.
So the intent of this, and it says it's distinct from, does not supplant student conduct and discipline policy. The whole intent of this policy, it seems like, is to allow for suspension or expulsion, including emergency suspension solely for investigating. Is that what this allows for? Is that what's the, that's what I took from it, the gap that we're filling is today, maybe our policies would only allow us to suspend or expel if we found a reason, and this allows for threat assessment to be a reason for suspending.
So there are a couple reasons behind this in my interpretation. One of them is that for years there's been this perception, and I don't know if it's correct or not for school districts at large, but that as a state we've been lagging in preparedness for events like the ones this is designed to prepare us for, right? So when we have a threat, a significant threat in our school buildings. And there are, at the district level, often procedures that have developed in the state of Vermont that were viewed as potentially an obstacle in an emergency situation to removing a student in the name of safety. And so this allows for that.
And under the policy, it says the method of which you'll make that decision would be determined in the policy that you haven't developed yet.
In the procedures.
Or in the procedure.
So we do have existing procedures related to this, and really once this is passed, there are some tweaks that we'll be making to it, but we've had behavioral threat assessment teams as a district for several years. Mike would actually know better than me how many years, but my understanding is long before most school districts have gone down this path. So I think that this is not really a change in practice for us as a district. Certainly not a major change in practice for us as a district. Our policies and procedures related to student safety are super clear and very much in line with what the state is looking for from us.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, we have them, we use them, we have used them, you know, as often as every school in the world, in the US at least, right, has had to use these things. Like, these are the stories that we hear, and hopefully it's find out if it's a real threat or if it's a story that has turned into a threat, right? And if it is, then how do we handle it? And we have to do it consistently, and we have to do it fairly for the student who is the alleged perpetrator. We have to do it fairly for the students who could be threatened. We have to do it fairly for the staff. We have to, right? So it's a thing that we have to be able to do, sadly, today, but it happens. And so this policy is something that the state has said every single school has to have. And so we are using their model and still using our procedures that I'm assuming, I'm looking at both of you, that we've had to tweak a little bit. Yeah, you want to join us, Mike?
Yeah, just the biggest difference between what we were doing, say, 5 years ago and what this is the state has provided training now. We've had a behavioral threat team here at the high school for a long time. The police part, we have a contact at the VSB. It's not necessarily a school resource officer, but we have one person we've established a relationship with. So we have training, and now we also have paperwork that is required for us to fill out. So the great thing about this is the training that the state's providing. It hasn't really changed my team per se, but now we're all getting training yearly, which you think's a lot, but that's a lot longer. So we've been doing it now. We're just getting a little more formalized. So.
But I would say a similar background for the elementary schools and middle schools. So we have, there's a high school specific procedure and procedures, and then there's procedures for the rest of the district, and we leverage the same split we use for student services between the north side of the district and the south side of the district to respond to those when they happen.
So this is the warning, right? And we're
This is the warning.
see you next
Yep.
meeting.
So next meeting, we will approve it as a policy. So if there are other questions, it's a great time to talk about it. We will still have a time to talk about it at the next meeting, but we'll ask for it to be approved as a, accept the policy. Steve?
Hello. Can you guys speak to 7 where it says ensure behavioral threat assessments team members receive training at least annually in the best practices of conducting behavioral threat assessments as well as bias training? Like, how does the bias training play into this? Just out of curiosity.
So I can give you the general description for that, and then if you want, I can bring back some more specific information, but there's a requirement that in conducting these that we ensure that we're not acting with bias and that we're looking at, actually I think it's on the very front page in the second paragraph. Yeah, so that last sentence in the second paragraph, which says that teams will operate in a manner that avoids bias, discrimination, and disproportionate impact on students and historically marginalized communities. I don't know where that specific language comes from, but it is a common thread we see in language from the state, the Agency of Education, and it is usually in reference to the historically high concentration of disciplinary incidents with students who fall into those categories.
More questions? All right, great. Thank you. We will have a new policy this year, maybe, if we approve it at our next meeting. Next agenda item is the legislative update, Act 73 and Act 72. Am I do it in the order that we have them here?
Sure. And so full disclosure, the summaries, so you'll see 2 links in the agenda. One is the actual language of the bills as they were passed. That's the H454 and H480. Those links, the other links about Act 73 and 72 are actually links to a summary that these documents were shared widely with the Champlain Valley Superintendents Association. So these are not exhaustive summaries, but a highlight of the key points in each of the bills.
Can I share a quick why?
Oh, sure.
Usually we don't talk about laws in this way. We talk about them directly as we're making model policy changes, right? Like the last one or things like that. These were 2 that are going to be impacting us in the next few years in big and small ways. And we thought like just talking about it up front so that we have something to draw from as we have these policies going forward. And it's like everybody's talking about them. So we might as well like talk about what is real about them and what is not real about them. So that's kind of why it's on.
So the key changes really are about in Act 73 are about the requirement for school districts to have between 4,000 to 8,000 students, if possible, and then a timeline for achieving that, and in the name of efficiency and improving student outcomes. So you can see all the things that follow actually are kind of a byproduct of that. So foundation formula, setting a dollar amount per student, weighting formula to make sure that we're considering equity in the way that education is financed. There are changes to the property tax system that are both complex and not final, I believe. And then the class size minimums, which are a huge impact, and one that we are very well prepared for as a district, provided they don't change. Because I think that is important to say too. This is a multi-year action plan set out in the law, and there are avenues for changes to happen, but also off-ramps for it to not even happen at all potentially. And the first of those is the map making, which BD is involved in, and is it December 1st or January 1st?
December 1st. Well, so yeah, the report is due December 1st, and then it goes to the legislature, and then the legislature decides what to do with it. So.
What's our current enrollment?
Well, actually, we've had a little bit of a bump in enrollment this summer, which is nice, but we are, if you count pre-K as whole kids, which the state doesn't, we're at about 2640 right now, which is about 65 more rough numbers than we had anticipated.
Do we know why?
So we've had a lot of people moving into the district this summer, and we actually have quite a few families who's.
Next question.
We need to give them some softballs.
No, so we've had quite a few move-ins, and they're still happening actually, so positive side.
Just to talk about a couple of other things that are in Act 73 that are causing some stressors for people in schools. The Agency of Education has a requirement to create a new statewide school calendar and statewide graduation requirements. People in our district specifically, and in other districts across the state, worked really hard to create high quality, like rigorous graduation requirements. And there are concerns because the agency, it hasn't always been able to get what needs to get done in a way that makes sense to folks. There are concerns, right, that there could be losses there, and there are concerns that what we've been teaching to as graduation requirements, how is that going to be? How are we going to have to modify all of that, right? So those are real concerns for people in schools today. What does that look like? Because this has all been done locally. I'm looking over at some nodding and shaking over there. Do you want to add to that?
Well, it is local. I mean, Title 16 has graduation requirements that I think we've done a great job meeting. And I'm really worried that they're gonna tell us all how we have to meet the graduation requirements, because I really like our blend of proficiency and traditional grades, and I think it produces a heck of a graduate. I'm curious what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
You know, so you guys have to help figure that out for us.
Well, and it's not just that you think they do a good job, but statewide, like NEASC people and nationwide folks have been rating our school pretty highly. So like
Number one.
Number one.
But like, what if, right, like the state changes, we just said it's gonna take a couple of years. What stops us from doing what we're still doing? Like, if they're below our standards, why couldn't we continue just doing it? So we're still meeting their standards, but we're exceeding their standards. So, like.
So then you have,
Reports for Zoe or something?
I didn't hear what you said, but I don't know that I should answer what you said either. I think that there could be issues, legal issues, with there's a statewide graduation requirement, and how can one district choose to do something different from what, are there equity issues, right? So there are all kinds of things that could, and I don't know, right? I'm not a lawyer, I don't know all of this. We would have to figure that out, and that's part of the concern, is that there's a lot of unknown, and unknown is, as we all live daily, we don't love it. We like to know, right? We like to know that, oh, that road's closed. I wasn't expecting that, right? Like, those are things that add stress for us. And so that's part of the issue of that.
I think to Mike and Edie's point, if it is just setting high standards for us, we're certain that we can meet and exceed those standards. I think the fear that Edie was referencing is that there's going to be more prescriptiveness about the path we take to get to the standards that are set, but we don't know yet.
Their concern will be maybe not expansion, but a diversion of resources to different requirements that we don't have right now, that we have to devote resources to going after.
And as I understand it, anything could happen. which is part of what has made it spark some anxiety.
I think, you know, my concern, and for those that are familiar, there was what was called, the high school completion program, which was really a flexible opportunity for students to really be involved in designing their program. Like Mike has said, I was involved in that program, and it's now changed to the adult diploma program, which has become standardized testing, and that's it. And my worry, and I think the idea of whether the AOE just is capable, just in terms of staffing or expertise, whatever that may be, to be able to continue to allow great high schools to have more than just a standardized test-based graduation expectation. That would be my fear, is that there is so much personalization that is happening at the school, always opportunity for more, but I worry that the state is going back the other way because they just want a very clean, clear, this is what you need to pass, and therefore you're a graduate. That would be my fear with this.
Not to mention the students who were stuck in limbo for 8 months because the previous guidelines stopped and the new guidelines haven't been set yet, which was incredibly stressful for students.
And they're still not even able to approve any local assessments. Like, what is the impact for a school, a high school, to say, oh, we've now got to get a graduate approved by the state versus the school? That, that's one thing to set broad expectations. It's another to prescribe what we were actually doing on a day-to-day basis. That doesn't.
So I'm not, I don't have anything to have an opinion on yet, right? Like in theory, and most states do it, a statewide graduation requirement works great, and it's really a good thing, and to have those guidelines. But I'm just stating for folks that there's a lot of discomfort with not knowing how this is going to go and what it's going to look like. And I think that's important for us as a board to understand that that is a real concern within our schools today.
So then is there a timeline for this being done, or is this still just kind of open-ended?
I think it's for the 28-29 school year, but
This summer, you said new districts will be established by July 1. Does that mean the curriculum changes?
well, there are dates for all of this to be coming into effect at different times.
Okay.
So I have it open, I just don't know that I want to go down that whole classes.
So from previous experiences with this kind of state testing, it's more for the underperforming schools to be closer to par as we are than one of the more overperforming schools, to get them say, hey, y'all can't just color, you have to do schoolwork, that kind of thing. It's not so much making us go out to left field and do something completely strange. It's going to be, we're doing good. We can go above and beyond, not have a requirement. You make the state requirement, your junior year, congratulations, but you can still do your senior year and go above and beyond. But it's really just for the impoverished schools, the smaller schools that can not get 2 years of Spanish or 2 years of French required.
So the Agency of Education is supposed to be working on it now, and it's supposed to go into effect the school year that ends, July 1.
On or before July 1, 2027.
2027.
No, it's a long.
It's really not.
In theory, it's a long time.
I would say exactly the opposite. Super soon, because you have students who you're teaching right now who are going to be graduating that year, right?
Right.
So how do you make sure that the freshmen right now are graduating, or the sophomores right now that are graduating that year, I'm not going to do math right now in my head, are being taught the right things to be able to graduate?
So I'm sure they need provisions for that.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna on-ramp somebody
I
and
hope
say,
you're right.
yeah, there's changes inevitable and there's always gonna be unknowns. So I think well, in this running too much, it's not stressing. Productive. Yeah, it is.
All right, so that's the gist of 454. On the district map thing, just again to say that there's a task force that's putting up to 3 maps together. They're going to send a report to the legislature. The legislature is going to take that report and do something with it. Could be.
Is there an order of operations where, like, does it go to House Ed and Senate Ed first for them to play around with?
It will go to those committees, yes, but during the
broadly.
legislature, yeah, I don't know which one. They're going to all get it at the same time. At the same time, there is a group working on what voting boards look like in a different system, and that's a different committee that has.
That's not Senate.
No, that's government operations.
Are you working with them so they know what the map looks like, or are they also just doing their?
Well, so some of it is, so they can't do work without a map.
Yeah.
So everybody has to have a map first, and it's important for them to know what it looks like to have different voting boards and how changes in voting boards impacts other things and what the time necessary is to make those changes. So there's all kinds of, right? I mean, and looking at voting boards is assuming, I made myself in trouble here, but it's assuming that school board members are not appointed and they're elected. So, but that's an assumption that's built in that isn't directly, there's no real law on it, it's just an assumption that's built in. So there are all kinds of pieces that.
In theory, this will be done by the end of the session in June, May, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Early May.
She hopes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest change to Vermont education in 100 years. Being compressed into less than 8.
It's something so important, why would you?
Well, but that's why I think, right, that John said, there's off ramps, there's different things that can happen, so nothing is necessarily, it's not set concrete necessarily, so. The legislature could just say,
We're just scared everybody for fun. Is there anything we could or should do in the next 9 months in preparation for, that we should be considering? I don't know if it's relationships with potential consolidation districts or like relationships that should be built that I guess probably are already built, but having more active work on the assumption that something will happen because status quo is easy for.
Yeah, I mean, staying connected to the VSBA, like, attending the trainings and the regional meetings and all of those things, I think is going to be really important. I think, finding the other schools in our region in the VSBA and having perhaps additional meetings with them could be really helpful. I mean, I think there are things, paying attention to the law as laws are being written and reaching out and saying, you're forgetting about this. This is like something that is going to have, bigger impacts than you think. I think all of that is incredibly helpful. I'm going to talk about Act 72.
Do I ever?
Now that I
No. So Act 72 is the one that's actually the most impactful right now. And the major pieces about that, so actually in looking through my summary document right now, it also references the behavioral threat assessment team. So that's also part of this, as well as the district quality standards. The big one is the social media and cell phone / device use in schools provision. And so we've sent some communication about that out to the community right now. We spent some time 2 weeks ago, actually in this room, working with principals on that. Some of it is relatively easy for us to decide what to do right now because we don't have model language or guidance from AOE, and the requirement doesn't take effect just yet. So that would be like the cell phone use and the personal device use. where in the communication I sent out, we said our existing policies and school rules are staying in place, and the principals have all committed to working with students and staff to look at that model language when we get it, and the guidance from AOE, and talking about how to make it work for us in our school buildings, which is wonderful. The challenging one is the social media one, because that took effect on July 1. And we do not have model policy language, and we do not have guidance from the Agency of Education. And there are a couple provisions in there that you could kind of read and take one way or the other. So that was the challenge that we had as a leadership team. So in this room, we basically had this continuum of responses to it, and landed in the middle. So the key tenets, the totally non-negotiable pieces of it that are very clear are that we cannot require students to use social media or incentivize them to use social media or direct message them with social media as school staff members, unless there's this whole, the direct messaging in particular, range of requirements that we can meet, which we cannot meet. So that kind of takes those pieces out. Then when you get into what does it mean to not incentivize a student to use social media, that's where it gets a little stickier. Right? So the teacher could say, I put the homework on the board and I posted it on my Instagram page. And realistically, that could be interpreted as encouraging the students to use social media. There's also some language in there about, not language in there, early guidance that we got from the Vermont Superintendents Association. Their advice is if you're going to allow social media, that you have confidentiality agreements with the companies, you have official school monitoring of the accounts, and that you follow a social media second approach, which means you use some other school-approved method like PowerSchool or Schoology or even email or blog to post the information. And then after it's posted there, then you can post it on social media. That felt, when we teased that out, pretty cumbersome and onerous for teachers. So where we landed, the number one use for social media in our school buildings right now is really about engaging our families and engaging the community. We do have some new tools that our technology department is working on rolling out right now around the family engagement piece, which will hopefully make that easier. And we decided to go that route with classrooms in this interim period. So encouraging teachers to use that, asking them not to use social media for that purpose. And then also keeping a school-based or activity and athletics director-based social media account as an option so that we can engage the community who doesn't have access to those internal tools we share with families. That said, we could get guidance from the Agency of Education or a model policy that pushes us in a different direction. So this is just very much an interim move by us to kind of protect everybody along this early part of the journey. I'll pause there because there might be questions on that. I have gotten some emails from community members about that announcement.
I'm just kind of curious if through this act, has the state laid out like what counts as social media or like what specific platforms are involved? Or is that up to districts and schools to decide?
It would be really great if they had just made a list, right? But they unfortunately did not.
There was also debate about using some other language than the language that was in the final part of the bill that would have made it much more clear what is social media and what isn't social media, and that got left on the cutting room floor. So it's much more ambiguous than it should have been.
Right, so the key piece that's not, or that is clear, is about the one-to-one communication and group messaging. So on platforms that have that functionality, we have to make sure that after a staff member sends a message that we can ensure it's not edited, and that we can also archive that, and that as a school district we have visibility into that. And so that actually rules out the vast majority of what we might be talking about when we say social media, when it comes to student use. There are some exceptions, right? So Sports U for students at the high school that are familiar with it, that has a very social media feel to it. but that actually does meet the criteria set in the MLS. So score sheet is great. We have it at the high school. We're working right now to push that out to our activities and athletic programs at the middle schools. Because it is a great, easy way for coaches and people who run those activities to stay in touch. But it is also interesting that at the same time, when we talk about that, we're talking about it within the context of a law that also says we're trying to get kids not to use cell phones.
Is that the intent, like, do you know, what's the intent behind this? To get kids off screens, to get kids off social media? Like, what's that outcome they're trying to drive with this? I know sometimes it's convoluted, but, or like, as a district, what's the outcome we're trying to drive towards?
Those are two different questions.
Well, I know, I'd be interested in hearing thoughts about both, I guess.
Yeah, so the impetus behind the law is that across the country, as these laws have been implemented, it has decreased student behaviors. Like, so all of the negative behaviors have decreased, the bullying has decreased, the harassment has decreased, and it has not only in the schools, but outside of the school time.
Okay.
And so that seems like something that would be good for Vermont. And there is initial research that shows that it's decreasing the anxiety levels and things like that students have. And then you have the issue of the social media companies that have been able to do, have not been protecting our kids from the behavior that they know, from the way their apps are built. They are designed to keep kids on screens longer. And they have not been, they have not chosen to do any limiting of those kind of things. And so in order to impact that, laws have to come at it differently.
Okay.
And so that's the impetus.
So, okay, so at the state level, it's about minimizing the negative impact of social media on students across the state. And then do you think that there's a different point of view within the district? Because you said it was two separate things.
Well, what you asked was, what are the goals?
Oh,
what are the district goals? I don't.
So I can say, in working with the principals and with our athletic director, the reason people are using social media is to engage community.
Yeah.
And it is not to funnel kids into a social media app that has an algorithm that tries to get them to stay on longer, right? So for us, when we were talking about that goal of how do we connect with our families and the wider community, the conversation became like, how do we comply with these new provisions and also still do that? And so this new, so I hate to say it because Power School is like a dirty word, right? But this Power School app is very social media feeling, but it is lacking all of those engineered algorithms and doesn't have any of the same confidentiality concerns. So that's an avenue to engage in that and or to engage with our families and our students absent those kind of potentially harmful issues. Hanging on to those school social media accounts, at least for right now, still allows us that avenue to share with the broader community that we can't just give Power School logins.
Right, okay.
So. I didn't mean to cut you off though.
No. I think the tension lies with us always wanting to meet kids where they are. And so we engage with kids where they are, which is on social media. And the intention has never been to encourage them to be on social media.
Yeah.
But that might be an unintended consequence of meeting kids where they are. And so, I think that has been a lot of attention, not a goal, but
Another fundamental problem is that these social media companies have user experience engineers who make it all so seamless and integrated. And unfortunately, these academic platforms have minuscule budgets compared to all that. So the user experience is just really challenging for people. And so I think we're always, it's the same as when you order something from Target, right? And then you go to the country store, it's going to fundamentally have a different feel to it. We want the kind of country store feel, right? But we can't always ensure that that's going to have the impact on the community because people will get frustrated, I think. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think the intention is great, and I have high hopes that it can be seamless and integrated into everyone's lifestyle the way that it needs to be to work for families and for students and for educators.
So this is a transitional year in terms of personal device use and cell phone use during school hours. Because it's not technically required, right, to prohibit that until next school year.
January.
Oh.
So we have to.
Here it says 26, 27.
Yeah, we have to adopt the policy by this January, but I don't believe it has to take effect until next school year.
Okay, so maybe this is too much in the weeds, but are there some blankets or policies that are going to be implemented starting in the beginning of the school year that will be different from last year?
So we're at the start of the year with personal devices, including cell phones, we're carrying over the rules from last year. So those will stay the same. I think the challenge that we had in talking about this as a leadership team is that making any change for the start of this year, as well intended that might have been, would have basically required doing that without staff and student input. And especially for Mike at the high school level, that's not good for the student experience, the staff, they have to enforce it. And Mike would spend all year just chasing this as an issue. I think we also really want to see the guidance from AOE and the model policy language, because there could potentially be some differences between the grade levels in terms of what those expectations are. I don't know what that, I don't want to presume to predict any of that until I actually see it written.
So, but our teachers aren't right now saying, kids, your homework's on Instagram. Here's the link, right? We don't have teachers saying, here's the link on my Instagram right now, do we?
So right now we're not aligned, to go back to what you said earlier, in our social media use. We do have some buildings where every teacher has a classroom Instagram page, and lots of information is shared just publicly, so students and or families can access that. And then we have other places where there's no social media usage. And so one of the things that we felt pretty strongly about was coming into alignment as a district in our approach at the start of the year, and then figuring out where to go together after that.
Yeah, kind of from the parent perspective, there's nothing in the law that says anything about communicating with parents or community members, especially speaking about sports directly.
Yep.
Is that, I guess, what are the thoughts about that? Is that something we want to consider, would be in our scope? And also intra-parent things, I'm thinking of all the parent-teacher associations and those have components that are organized on these things. It's not official, but it's also not unconnected, but it's not to students, so the legal area is a little deep. It's within the letter, but not the intent.
I mean, this is, so I can tell you, I shared this with Edie after I met with the Champlain Valley superintendents. This situation is the one that every one of them hates. And I will now put myself in that camp as well. That's because we're required to be, amateur lawyers and interpret what is there and the intent behind it individually across all of our districts, and then wait for the guidance that will actually tell us what we should have done after we invested a ton of time and energy in working with kids and faculty to do something potentially different. So one of our goals in landing where we did land was to set ourselves up so that we felt like we would be in a good place either to be in compliance with what they give us, or to be able to relax if that's what we decide that we want to do. And at least for right now, both our interpretation, the Champlain Valley Superintendent's Group, and also the VSA's interpretation is that we shouldn't really be reaching out to parent groups or those affiliated groups right now to ask them to do anything related to their social media use. So pie is safe for now.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is schools shouldn't be communicating with students through these, right? It's, it would be, again, to go, it wouldn't be following the intent of the law to communicate with parents, and it's okay if students see it too, kind of a thing. But communication with parents is really hard. And so we have to be able to still do that, and that's why the law is written the way it is. So, yeah, we hate gray, and there's more gray than.
Did you get a lot of feedback from your letter that went to the district?
I've received some feedback. I wouldn't say a lot. But I think there are some people who have really valued their insight into their child's education from being able to follow along on social media in some cases.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've actually received more positive feedback than negative feedback. And the kind of reoccurring theme in the stories that I've heard is that it's hard for parents to go from one teacher who posted everything here to another teacher who doesn't post anything on social media to another teacher who does actually, but on a different platform.
Yeah.
So there's some hopefulness around bringing us into alignment.
That is a really hopeful thing. I think that could be great. And even if this wasn't an issue, that would be a great thing to do for the district. So that's a very positive step.
Lemonade from lemons, maybe?
Are there potential, I mean, you mentioned some potential technological solutions, I don't know if it approved apps or district supported blog or what, I mean, not a solution, but are people thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations. My mother always said my superpower, if I had one, would be making the best out of a bad situation. And I actually was not affiliated with any of these decisions. I can't take responsibility for them, but I'll happily benefit from them. At the end of last school year, we renegotiated our Power School contract because we were losing access to our data warehouse that was hosted outside of Power School. And that product was being discontinued. And so as part of that renegotiation, we got access to a whole suite of Power School tools. This called My Power Hub is that like Power School version of social media, connecting families and teachers. And that just came with the upgrade to our Power School package. And so that is actually the training that the tech department and Andrew Jones are working on right now with our staff, and then looking at how we roll that out to families. And that is fully compliant with all of the things that we need to be.
It is very nice as a parent to using Power School, be able to see what the kid's doing weekly.
I'm used to getting weekly newsletters.
Well, I know, like even grade Power School, you can see like, oh, Johnny didn't turn this in this week. Why not?
They get to a certain age and they have to figure it out.
Well, 9 years old is not that age.
Kids that are starting high school and have the opinion, that's not my responsibility.
No, it's not.
All right, we're not parenting, we're school board.
I feel like the lack of guidance for us with Act 72 really highlights for me the anxiety that's coming from Act 73, right? The fact that we say that they would never do that, but clearly this is what's happening right now. So I just want to validate that for our staff and admin.
I think that's a great opportunity for us to drive engagement. If parents are trained to look at the same places and communicate with the same platforms year over year, then we're only going to have growth in their engagement over the course of their child's tenure in our district. But it's when we restart every year, and they have to integrate a whole different system that we really lose people, and then the frustration really mounts. And the communication piece is the pain point for so many families, you know, the layered systems and trying to integrate it with working parenthood and all that kind of stuff, so.
Or too much or too little.
Yeah, so I hadn't thought about this as an opportunity, but even quietly surfing the Power School site here while I'm listening, it looks like it actually could be great, so I'm gonna join you in your lemonade party, John. This could be great for us.
Can I just check you on something on Act 72? The flexible pathways law now requires military-related post-secondary planning starting in 7th grade. So does that mean we have to let the National Guard in to talk to 7th graders about joining the service?
So if you want more information on this, I would like to go back and read it more thoroughly. This is also an area that we haven't gotten the full guidance that I would look for, but I'd be happy to come back with more information on that if you want.
I mean, I could dig it up myself, just curious to see, you know, in 7th grade.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that flexible pathways hasn't been built out as well as it could. And this is like saying, integrate this too, right? Like, so as you're thinking about all of these things, when you're talking about possible pathways, this is, and yeah. So at the end, in Vermont and across the country, schools have been shutting out the military from having access to students in ways that the law does not allow for. And so this is going back and saying, you know, this is part of an opportunity that for students that should be part of the opportunity for conversations about what comes next for all students. And part of the shutting out is that schools and the military are two separate things, and there isn't a lot of bridging with what does that look like and how does that work, and you know, all of that. And so I think that's part of it as well. So it's not a pathway creator necessarily, right? But it is a, let's make sure that this is known as an opportunity for the kids, all kids, at a level that isn't just, this kid can only do this. And, you know, it's just to normalize it. But yeah, John can dig in and come back. So I will say that personally, learning more about the National Guard and understanding the gig economy going forward, there's some really great synergies there with like benefits and other things like that that you can get from the National Guard. So I think that it's.
We'll discount that, but it's like, are we gonna start doing that kind of counseling?
Yeah, but it's not counseling. It's a, when you're talking, you know, do you want to be a veterinarian? Do you want to be a, you know, like firefighter, right? A biologist. Yeah. Yeah. Has to be part of the menu. And it's been inconsistent across the state how folks have been doing it.
Once again, a lie.
Yeah. Superintendent, are we ready?
I have another question.
Yeah.
There's another element of that second bill about BOCES.
Yeah.
Could you talk to me about BOCES and how you see that factoring into the district at all?
Well, so I can talk about it generally. This would be another one that I can come back with more information on if you want. There's a little skepticism about where
Everybody know what BOCES is?
No, I'm not sure where you are.
BOCES? Where are you? Boards of Cooperative Education Services, and this is is it 480 or 72 or 70?
72. There was a digger article this week on Woodstock, Windsor. Talked a little bit about history behind it. Rebecca Holcomb introduced this last year or the year before. Yeah, it just kind of allows for funding and a mechanism for supervisory unions and districts to work together on things, anything from negotiating contracts to providing special services. And I think, well, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, but I think it's a convenient way to, if supervisory unions and districts wanted to influence the maps, you know, you start exploring these BOCES arrangements and see which districts you work well with and which ones you don't work well with. And maybe that, you know, can help to naturally define the consolidation. And we've talked about it at our district for a while. We've never done much on it. I think this might be something to explore in the near term, just to see if, you know, what we can get at it. Because we know, you know, contract negotiations for one are challenging in Chilton County, and potentially having a cooperative arrangement with other districts would be helpful. Or not, depending on what side there.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of skepticism around how useful this might be because of the consolidation that's coming. And I say skepticism that's coming from superintendents. Because you took a very Lemon's approach to describing the potential use for it, but there has not been a large appetite. There was originally, was it 2 years ago, I think, when this was first brought up in the legislature? There's a huge appetite for exploring this, but it kind of has gotten lost or fizzled out with all the ed reform talk.
And the agency didn't support it right away.
So that said, I think it is a potentially exciting avenue to explore. I'm worried about how much time it might take to actually get to making it useful. So if you look, so my experiences with cooperative boards in Massachusetts, which are similar to BOCES in New York, and it can take quite a bit of time to get them actually up and going to successfully tackle their first project, if it's a big one like contracts or pieces like that. The common low-hanging fruit is really looking at like special ed services and looking at how we can differentiate and support across districts with that. And I can tell you we are actually in a wonderful place as a district to have those conversations right now with other districts, because we do have several special ed programs with capacity, or that we could add capacity to, that are in areas other districts around us have needs in. So that is a potential area for us to explore. And the nice thing about that is it does not technically, at least in the early phases, require us to go through this whole process with BOCES. But it could pave the way for something like that.
I think we should explore it more. To your point that the current focus has taken the wind out of the district sales, superintendents are like, why bother doing anything innovative? We're all going to get merged in the future. We'll just wait and see. Well, that law could change next year to maybe we'll merge in 5 years, right? And so we could just sit here and do nothing. Or maybe we could, you know, do something that's aligned with broader consolidation. It might get us there even faster, better. So I think as a board, we should explore it more and see if there's something there that we can work on.
But I just want to be super clear too. The way that you described superintendent's reaction and what I was trying to express are a little different. And that's just that I think superintendents have a little bit of whiplash right now from the consolidation talk that has been happening. I don't think anybody's talking about not innovating or not doing anything.
But I think I took it a few levels deeper there, but I sense that, you know, as we get further along and maybe closer to the light at the end of the tunnel of, okay, we're all going to be in one district, you know, we're going to turn into boards of, let's spend all of our capital now before we merge kind of things. And I'd like to, you know, kind of keep things moving, knowing that it may or may not happen.
Yeah, I think you and I are in agreement. I think it's just a question of how we take those initial steps forward and where.
And one last thing on the mobile policy. I brought this up many years around what we filter on our Wi-Fi, guest Wi-Fi. And the response in the past as well, lots of classes use social media, so we have to keep these things open. I think we're doing a disservice if we continue to allow our students to have access to TikTok and other social medias, even though we have a policy that's saying don't use it, but yet, you know, if you're on guest or, you know, student access, it's wide open. I think the policy is liberal, too liberal there for that, and can put us into a liable situation, especially if it's no longer needed for school. So we might want to consider that as well.
Good point, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thanks, everybody. It's a great conversation. Superintendent update. You're not off the hook yet.
No, but I have so many fun things to share, so this is actually exciting. I'm going to start and end with convocation. Because we did just on Friday have our convocation where we brought faculty together across the district. We were all in person at the high school gymnasium right around the corner here. You missed quite the show. Edie was trying to teach me how to scoop ice cream beforehand. And
Before I gave up.
yeah. I think cookie dough is harder to scoop than the ones that don't have the chunks of stuff in it.
They all have chunks of stuff.
But we had a good time. We had a really great time at convocation, and we did some things a little differently this year, including quite a bit of competition between the schools, which was actually really fun. And so I thought it would be nice if I kind of showcased some of that for you. So you notice there are a bunch of pictures hanging up over here, and also on this pillar here. This was part of our Artists in Residence competition where it was timed. Teams had to draw either a creative or an accurate recreation of an image that they were given. And so the theme was 5 towns, 1 heart. So I thought that it'd be fun to share that. And I'll come back because we had 2 kind of team sports, 1 visual art activity, and then 1 poetry competition, which ended up being probably the most exciting one. And Edie helped out as a judge, so thank you to Edie for that. We also, we've been super busy getting ready for the start of the year. We've had leadership retreats for us as a district team, but also within our different buildings, principals working with their guiding coalitions to get ready for kids to come back. Working through some of these very issues that we've been talking about. We've had lots of facilities work across the district, from stormwater projects, which hopefully you saw some of the evidence of as we came in. Those have all wrapped up, which is great. We had a large boiler project at Smiley, which is almost completely done. We're just waiting for a few parts, and then we'll be ready when before the cold weather arrives. We have a pretty steady schedule of some other facilities projects, like regular asbestos abatement that happens. We were able to score, I don't know, and you can all stop me if you have heard things like this in the past, but we have a really resourceful facilities department. I mean, unbelievably resourceful. And so the past 2 years, we've been able to score very lightly used unit ventilators, which matched our HVAC design in this building here, and replace all of them with ones that were 2 or 3 years old versus the very old ones that we have. So we've been able to do projects like that. And then we have if you go up to Underhill anytime, drive by the school, there's a brand new paved parking lot there that really changes the whole face of that school and will reduce our ongoing costs for lot maintenance and snow removal, which is great. We have 38 new staff start with us. We're fully hired for teachers, but we are still looking for bus drivers and paraprofessionals. So please get the word out. If you know anybody that you think might be a good match, send them our way. I do also just want to shout out, we mentioned it earlier, that MMU is the #1 high school in Vermont. It is again for 5 out of the last 6 years, is that right, Mike? 5 of the last 6 years, we've been the #1 high school in the state, which is amazing. And we're in the top 2% in the country, which is also another really great honor for us as a school. And Mike is very gracious when we talk about this, and I think he's right on the money in saying that this is really something we as a whole community own, from parents to pre-K all the way through our buildings. Our kids come to the high school with a wonderful foundation, and the teachers and staff here really take it and run with it. So a lot of people have planted a lot of seeds in this garden to make it what it is. That said, I do have a quick poem. So this is, it's not yours, Mike, you can read these.
We would like to hear that too.
Yeah. So, teams in convocation had to respond to one of 3 prompts the year begins with, if these hallways could talk, or a poem to myself on the last day of school. And this was the winning poem from the winning team from the first annual Convocation Cup. That's, if these hallways could talk, they'd tell you many things. They tell you of all the laughter and the joy each child brings. They tell you of the smiles and stories children share. They tell you of the amazing staff and how each of them cared. If the hallways could talk, what do you think they'd say? They'd say, they love to see you and hope you're never far away. They tell you that your fit is cool, that your style so unique. They tell you that they're watching you, you better not try to sneak. They tell you of all the things that make you who you are. They tell you that in the school you are a shining star. If these hallways could talk, they'd say, you're a treat. They tell you, you do belong here at MMUUSD. And so I just share that was from the pre-K team. So pre-K competed as its own team, and they actually won the whole thing, which was really humbling for some of our other teams.
Teachers are probably learning how to be feeling.
Yeah.
And they play games.
Yeah.
All day.
What was it called?
That's great.
So the last, I'm sorry, I said we end with convocation. I realized there was one last thing I forgot to mention, which is we had a great showing at the leadership team retreat from members of the board. We had an amazing conversation about our ends policy and how to talk about it in simple language and what it might look like for us to know that we had achieved it, we made progress in those areas. And so I did also bring that chart paper, which is up here if you want to take a look on your way out tonight.
And we'll follow up with that at either future trainings or board meetings to keep talking more about outcomes and data and how our ends can be seen throughout our grade levels. So, awesome questions for John.
I would say the only thing is, in future times, we'll be having linked the superintendent's report.
Something in writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're used to that.
Oh, okay.
Writing.
And then that's filled with links. And those links have links.
Lots of links.
Yeah. Clearly, we love our email.
If you're gonna-
Yeah.
But it's not printed out.
No.
No. Okay.
You
That's
can't
nice.
click on the link.
All right. Careful what you ask for.
Can I get a motion to approve, can we do this together, the two? Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from June 9th and June 23rd? So, thank you, Susan.
Seconded.
Thank you, Kyle. Any conversation, any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everybody. Upcoming on the 20th? Oh, good. Upcoming on the
29th and 30th.
20, no, when's the regional?
September 30th.
Yeah, September 30th, upcoming September 30th is a remote regional VSBA meeting. It's going to be Tara, do you have an update on it, or is it, you want me to just fumble through? I'll fumble through it.
Register now.
Register now.
Via the VSBA email you receive every Tuesday.
Yes. So take a look, register now. It's 2 hours on the evening of September 30th. And
It's sometimes shorter because they start with the quick regional meeting where you vote on your regional reps. They've asked me to run again. Right, and then it moves into more like an hour-long discussion across all the regions. It's not usually strongly attended.
What time is it?
It's 5:30. 5:30. I don't know. I know what I need with them monthly. It's 5.
it's in my calendar. I think it's 5:30 because it's for more people. Let me take a look.
It's 5:30. So it's 5:30 to 7:30.
Because I registered already. I'm feeling very
So
proud.
I got my Zoom link and everything.
Yep,
Is it recorded? And we
it
should,
is,
the conference matter.
but that's the next thing.
Okay.
Conference is the 29th to the 30th in Burlington.
Yeah, so this year it's close, which is lovely.
Yes. Okay. Now we're talking a month later.
Yep, and that, we would love to have a great showing, especially because it's so close. And it is amazing if you can just be there for a couple of hours even, because if you have the ability to kind of get some of your day to the conference in person on the 29th and 30th. And, you know, Eli, this is something you can look at your calendar too and see what's A day, B day, figure it out, and we can work that out. But we do, when we register as a group, we get discounts, and the earlier we register, we get a discount too, I believe. So, register if you can go quickly, and then, shoot a note over to Nora so that we know everybody who's going to be there and we can track that. That works. Great. Anything else on those?
I think you need to select a delegate and an alternate for the business meeting.
Oh, yeah, for the annual business meeting for the VSBA, we need a delegate and an alternate, just like John said. We can do this at the next meeting, once folks know who is actually gonna be there in person or not. So start thinking about whether you're gonna be there.
And the resolution stuff is gonna come out
Soon.
too. This, still August, in like 6 days. In September, the resolution information is gonna be released. There was a lot of resolutions brought forward.
So make sure before the second meeting in September, you take your time to go through it all, and then we'll talk it through at our meeting at the end of September.
How does go to that conference?
Well, last year.
It's at the business meeting.
Yeah, because there was, that's part of the September 30th.
Will be remote.
September 30th is, yeah.
Yeah, September 30th is remote, and but the business meeting is October 23rd.
On Zoom.
Oh, they separated that.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah, right.
figured out, also remote. Yep.
Wait, I'm sorry, now, October what?
October
23rd is the annual business meeting.
Yeah.
And that's remote, and we need to determine that.
Yep, so take a look at your calendars, see who can actually attend. We'll talk about that at our next meeting, and then we'll talk about our resolutions at the meeting after that. So,
6.
great. Anything else on the conference or the regional meeting? Okay. Other business? Nobody has other business. Our junior student rep will be with us end of September, probably?
Yeah, by then, we'll
Probably not.
introduce it at this junior class meeting, which is next Wednesday. We'll do interviews, so, you know, I would say it's September.
I meant to talk about that in my earlier board thing and got distracted. So So our next meeting is September 8th
Amazon.
at Camel's Hump. Tara's gonna be running that one. And we'll be talking about these things and more. Check your calendar to see what we have on there for the agenda items. We have future subcommittee meetings. Some have set dates and others have not. So be on the lookout for from your committee chair on setting dates for the future. And it could be an email from Nora saying, when are you available? These dates are being proposed. So please, when you get those, respond quickly so that we can get everything on the calendars quickly. Because I don't know about all of you, but I might be free on a certain date today, and then when you ask me in 3 days, when everybody else has replied, I'm no longer available on those days. So I think we all have that. Yes?
Yeah, on the next meeting, I know a lot of work goes into the agenda. We try to get the agenda out.
Yes, and so I'll just say, both with the written superintendent report and with that, that's just me not knowing your routines yet, so apologies, but we'll get that sorted out by the 8th for sure.
Great. On that note, do people like having a printed agenda, or is that like unnecessary? Do you like having a printed agenda at the meetings, or is that unnecessary?
I like it. Maybe a couple. I mean, I don't know if we need one for like everybody, but it's actually nice to refer to.
It's much easier to refer to later than looking for the agenda online, I think.
Great. I just was gonna get a poll and brought up stuff like that.
If you just make it clickable.
I'm gonna work on it. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second, thank you. All in favor, give me a thumb and head on out the door. Have a great night, thanks everybody.